And welcome into the Bruins beat on CLNS Media. My name is Evan Marinofsky, and there's no Connor Ryan this week. Looking to my left, looking to my right, looking at the computer screen, no Connor. Connor has left me on my own. He is out looking at rocks in Utah. He's abandoned us. We should feel ashamed. No, anyways, Connor's having a great time out in Utah, and I haven't done a solo show since I think I was in quarantine the last time I did it. And that was before last season even started. So maybe it was time I do a solo show and answering listener questions. I always enjoy getting listener questions. I was very excited to do this. Obviously very excited to talk to Connor, but sometimes when I can just sit here and answer some of you guys' questions, I enjoy it. It's a little different, spices things up a bit. And some of these questions were good. Some were funny. It was a nice mix because I put out on Sunday afternoon. I put out on Sunday that I was going to be alone and I needed some questions. And you, the listeners, as always, came up big with some really good ones. And so we'll dive right in. And we'll just kind of talk and we'll just have a good time. Just us two, just me and you, the listener. It'll be very fun. So just to some of the first replies I got, Petrov McGuire, do you like rocks? Yes, on occasion, yes. I would say I'm a rocks guy. A lot of these questions had to do, Derek Brunette asked, do you think he'll bring you home a nice rock? I would hope. He doesn't live that far from me. I would hope he brings me back a very nice rock. That would be great for the show. That would do very well on Twitter. Everybody would love that. That'd be like a crossover episode involving a rock. What's not to love? So that might be fun. Hopefully he does. I'm not going to say anything, though. I don't want to tell him to bring me home a rock because I don't want to seem pushy. You never want to tell someone to get you a gift. That's kind of, then he's like, well, why would I get him a rock? So hopefully maybe he brings me home a rock. Next time he's on, which I think will be Wednesday. I don't know if he's going to be back then yet for Poke the Bear. But when he's back, I'm going to surprise him and say, did you get me a rock? Or maybe he'll bring it up. Maybe I shouldn't even bring it up. Maybe I should let him just kind of initiate it. Maybe that might work better. You people watching who don't know Connor and I are like, man, this kid Evan, what is he talking about? But yes, he is out in, by the way, I don't know if you guys follow Connor on Instagram. I know you've seen a lot of the pictures on Twitter. Amazing pictures from Utah. That is a trip I 100% would also like to take in the future. And I have a friend out in Utah now, actually. So I've been talking to him about going out sometime soon. A lot of these were rocks memes. Walrus 73 has a meme of a kid from Halloween saying, I got a rock. Okay, let's get into some real questions, some real Bruins questions. Kevin O'Keefe said, I like you, am a firm believer of Pasta and Hall in the second line being a great way to address depth scoring on this team. If it becomes an issue this season, my question is, what would your ideal lineup look like to get the best out of each player production-wise? Yes, I have said this in the past. I think if you really want to get even more depth scoring, I think you do want maybe want to try David Pastrnak on that second line with I almost said David Krejci, with Charlie Coyle and Taylor Hall. I don't think that's how it's going to start. I know that's not how it's going to start. But to optimize every player, I don't think it's far off from the lineup you'll see opening night. Again, I think it would probably be a little bit better for Charlie Coyle if he had David Pastrnak on his right side. I mean, I think that's safe to say for anybody. Anybody would be better with David Pastrnak on their right side. But at the same time, I don't think that I think, again, the first line is your scoring line. That's your heavy hitter line, Marchand, Bergeron, Pastrnak. And then the second line, I think having Taylor Hall next to Charlie Coyle is going to help a lot. And then Craig Smith was very good on that second line last year. I'm interested to see how he plays this year because he didn't start too hot last year, if people remember, but he was on a heater the second half of the season. So I am interested to see how he sort of fits in with that second line. The third and fourth lines, I think, is where it gets very interesting. They're deeper this year than they were in the past. That's why I think, as much as the Bruins are missing Krejci, that's a huge loss. You can't replace a guy like David Krejci. I do think that they're deeper, and that's what hurt them in past years. Was a lot of times their depth scoring wasn't there when their top line scoring also wasn't there. So again, I think a third line of Haula in the middle and DeBrusk on the left, hopefully a revitalized DeBrusk, and Nick Foligno on the right. I actually don't think that's bad. It's hard to put wingers on their offside. And I know Foligno kind of expects to play everywhere and do expect him to play everywhere, whether that's second line center at some point, whether that's third line center. Obviously, guys get injured, so you're going to see him in a lot of different places. Maybe he's net front on the power play. So I think to that third line is optimized enough. And then the fourth line, I think it's whoever's best coming out of camp, I think Nosek is going to be the one centering that line. They just paid Trent Frederick a new contract, so you have to expect him to be on there somewhere. Just Chris Wagner go on the right side. I think Curtis Lazar is probably the favorite. I think we said it on last Bruins beat. Connor and I both did that the fourth line, the ideal fourth line would be Frederick, Nosek, and Curtis Lazar. That's great, but I do expect that to change as the season goes along. I do love Curtis Lazar's play, and I think he's out of that fourth line probably going to be definitely a mainstay to start. So for me, that fourth line is as good as it gets right now. But again, you're going to have Chris Wagner, who's making good money, fighting to get on that line. They're going to want to have him getting playing time. So he's another one. Again, that fourth line is going to be changing all the time. And then on D, I think Grzelcyk and McAvoy is the way to go with that first pairing. I do. And I think Mike Riley and Brandon Carlo's the right pair to go on the second pairing, and then Forbert and Clifton on the third pairing. But again, I think you're going to see Forbert with McAvoy to start. And they're going to see how that goes. I'm interested to see how it goes. But I think if we're talking, Kevin, as you said, your ideal lineup to get the best out of each player production wise, it's Grzelcyk and McAvoy. Like every stat proves that. That's not even like debatable at this point. So I think those two would be the most ideal first pairing. But again, I'm in full support of putting Forbert with McAvoy in late game D zone draws, obviously penalty kills, just defensively important moments. You would put those two on the ice together, and that would be fine. And then in net, I guess we'll go with, you're not really putting them on a line, but I think playing them equally helps both, because again, Swayman's going to play a lot more than he did last year, no matter what. And a guy like Linus Ullmark, you're going to get what you put into him money-wise. So I think they're going to split time. I don't think that's going to be like a defined starter or not. Obviously, whoever starts game one will all be like, ooh, that's the starter. But I guarantee you that it's probably going to be very split throughout the season. Ty Anderson straight up said no. No questions from Ty. Nope. No questions. Nope. Didn't offer up a question. Didn't even text one on the side. Would have been so interested to hear a question from him for this show. Reese Mentaplease, good friend of mine from home, says, when will you tell Jack Eichel it's time to come to Boston? I don't think you need me to tell him that. And by the way, I think there was a tweet from a reporter up in Montreal, I think, that he was headed to Montreal, or they saw him on a plane to Montreal. There's some camp up there, though, but obviously everyone lost their mind. I mean, Jack Eichel could go to a Dunkin' Donuts and everyone's like, oh, see? And Twitter would blow up over it, and automatically he'd be coming to the Bruins. So, I mean, everything Jack Eichel does for the next whenever until he's traded is going to be a sign. If he's seen eating an In-N-Out burger, he's going to the Kings. He's going to the LA Kings. So when will I tell Jack Eichel it's time to come to Boston? Sarah Underwood on Fox 25 actually did that. Just straight up did it. Felger's wife. Just, coming to Boston. And so I guess she kind of took the place of the media there to tell him to come here. So we will see with that. Rob asked a very interesting question at Jeremy Lozon with 2 N's on Twitter. What are your expectations for Jack Studnicka this coming year? It's a great question. And Studnicka's a guy who's getting overlooked a ton. And kind of for good reason, just given the fact that in past years, every year we expect him to kind of break out, and every year it doesn't really happen. And last year was kind of that peak year of he was starting in the top 6. I remember in the bubble, he was really good up on, I think he was with Krejci, if I remember right. Feels like 10 years ago now, but I think he was with Krejci and he was good. And Kasha was with Krejci as well back then, and it was good. So I don't know. That's the thing. And again, the reports out of Foxborough where he trains is that he's gained a bunch of muscle and he's all this, but I don't know. And I think the thing with Studnicka that I think a lot of people are now realizing is Studnicka got hyped up a ton in his time as a Bruins prospect. Studnicka's the next thing. Studnicka's the next thing. He's going to be the future down the middle. And I think that partially came because there wasn't a lot of other talent with him. There wasn't. If you remember back then, I mean, who were the other big prospects? There really weren't a lot. I mean, back then it was the 2015 draft guys like Zaboral and Senyshyn, who every year we were waiting for it kind of break out. It never happened. It still hasn't happened. It won't happen. And this year, it just looks like a log jam. Again, I mean, you're going to have Trent Frederick playing the wing most likely on that fourth line. He's a center. That's a center. Nick Foligno's a center. So, and he's going to be playing the wing most likely to start. And Curtis Lazar is a center, and he's going to be playing the wing. So there doesn't seem to be a lot of area. And I don't think Stanika fits in with that fourth line's identity if that fourth line is as constructed. And on the third line, I mean, again, guys get injured, he'll get his chances. But I don't see a spot where Stanika breaks out in. It's not like, oh, he's going to be the second line center. And that's the other thing. People say, well, should he be the second line center? I don't think so. And I don't think it's bad to try it out. I think you might see some of it in the preseason or how, maybe you'll see it at some point during the season. But I think Coyle's their guy for that spot. I mean, Coyle is paid that money. And we'll get to a question later on about center depth. And I guess I'll answer it now. Joseph Laposada asked who will be the centers after Bergeron. So who will be the 2C through 4C? And honestly, as I think I said in the open, Coyle will be the second line center. Holla will be the third line center. Great faceoff guy. And fourth line center will most likely be Nosek. I mean, again, those two guys I just mentioned, Holla and Nosek, are free agents. They're going to get their chances, and established NHL guys. And Coyle's making 5.25. He's good. That's second line center money. And again, if he can produce with Hall and he can produce with Smith, is he going to produce on the level that David Krejci did? Absolutely not. But if you can get 45 points out of him, maybe 50, young, well paid, not injured anymore, Charlie Coyle, I think that could happen. I do. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. And I don't know where Stanika fits in. Just to go back to Stanika, I don't exactly know where he fits in this lineup because they want him down the middle. That's where he's best. And I don't know if there's a spot open. Maybe they're waiting for Bergeron to go, but that doesn't seem right either. And I don't think that's the right move either. And we'll get to potential centers to trade for or sign later on, because I know there was another question about that. Chad McVeigh asks, what number will Eichel wear as a Bruin, and where should I buy his jersey? That's a great question. But he said, just kidding. Do you feel the D-core is better than last year? Is the division tougher than last year? And then he asked, will Stanika break out this year? I don't think Stanika breaks out this year. I'll answer that right off the top, as I just said. But do I feel the D-core is better than last year? Absolutely, yes. It is much better. Is it good enough? I have my doubts. I have my doubts about that. I don't think they are as good as they should be, or as good maybe to come out on top in this division, which I'll get to in a second. But again, you added Forbort, who is a upgrade over Jakub Zboril. That's a clear upgrade. So you're better. Your left side, last year was what? Grzelcyk. And then Mike Riley was added at the deadline. Zboril was there to start the season. Vakanainen. I mean, John Moore. To me, absolutely 100% is much better this year. Lozon was there last year. Obviously, he's gone now. Because I was like, who was that other left shot defenseman? Zboril didn't play in that game, or didn't play much down the stretch. But on the right side, you have an older, better Charlie McAvoy, older, better Brandon Carlo, hopefully older, better Connor Clifton, more mature. So that's your right side. And then on your left side, you have Matt Grzelcyk, Derek Forbort, Mike Riley, in no particular order. Because, again, I think it's probably going to end up slotting in Forbort, Riley, Grzelcyk, at least to start the season. So I don't know. I think that's a lot better than what you had last year, but I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's particularly good enough to compete. Again, they did get bigger though with Forbort. So they did have that. Is the division tougher than last year? Absolutely, yes. I don't think that's even really close. I don't. I don't. I think, last year it wasn't a easy division because it was very a lot of middle to high tier teams. Capitals, Penguins, Islanders obviously ended up kind of getting the best of you there. But, again, I still don't, and I know Islanders fans will hate this, I still don't put them on the level of the Lightning. And it makes sense because they've lost to them, I think 2 years in a row now. But now, again, you're trading that in for Toronto, which, again, has high expectations and is going for it and has a good young team. As much as we like to make fun of them, still a good young team. And they're getting more mature. The Lightning are still freaking good. The Canadians just went to the Cup. So, again, I don't know if I expect them to be nearly or have nearly as good a run as they did last year. And, again, regular season-wise, they weren't good, but they still made it to the Cup. And then you have the Panthers, who are really, really good and deep and have a lot of talent. So, I think they made a playoff push last year. I think they're going to again this year. So a team's going to have to be kind of X'd out of that. And I don't think it's going to be as easy as it was the last time this division was together, where it was like, Bruins, Maple Leafs, Lightning vying for spots at the top, and then everybody else. I think it's going to be completely different this year. And the Senators shouldn't be terrible. I mean, the Sabres will be terrible, but I don't think the Senators are going to be horrendously bad. I don't think they're going to be good or a playoff team. The Red Wings aren't going to be good or a playoff team, but I think, again, those teams could play spoilers. So yeah, I think the division's much better. I do. I think the division's better. And that's not great. And again, everyone's talking about the Yzer plan up in Detroit. Is that a team that in the next 2 to 3 years takes a huge leap and kind of leapfrogs you with this aging core? Maybe. But who knows? But yes, the division will be much tougher. Andrew Taverna, who's a huge supporter of this show and a good follow on Twitter, says, do you think Tuukka Rask signs a vet minimum deal, or does he just take a team friendly deal, 2 to 3 million maybe? I think that's what he's worth. I think he's worth around 3 to 4. After that interview with Greg Hill, though, I have a weird feeling he's going to take a lot less than he's even worth at that point, with money not being an issue. And I think with him realizing that the Bruins don't necessarily need him, again, Ullmark is signed for a good amount of money, and Jeremy Swayman is the future. You really only need 2 good goalies. You don't need a third. And so I think he's going to do what he can to just get back on the roster and play. I don't think that that's going to be a thing where he's, trying to get more money. Again, I think there are a ton of teams right now that would give him $4.5 million easily to play for them, but he doesn't want to. And I don't know anything about his interactions with other teams. There's been nothing reported on him talking with other teams, so I don't exactly know. But I think there are a lot of teams out there that would easily give him. He's been arguably the most consistent goalie of the past 10 years. Yeah, I think a lot of teams would kill for that. It's kind of like in the NFL with quarterbacks, not to cross sports here, but in the NFL with quarterbacks, people will pay, tons of money over a long period of time for, a top 15 quarterback just to have consistency at the position. Now, Tuukka Rask is not just top 15. He's one of the best goalies in the NHL, and he has been for 10 years now. But that's what a lot of teams want in net. It's just consistency. They just want a consistent presence in the net, and Rask provides that at his lowest level. So I do think that he is going to take less. Is it veteran minimum? I don't know about that. That seems low, especially he's older, but not that old. Maybe around $1 million, maybe 2. But again, and if they're doing cap gymnastics, maybe he does say, I'll take 750. I could see it. Now, the thing that I don't quite get is I did think up until that interview, I did think Rask was done in Boston. I did. I thought he was done. But after hearing that interview and them asking him about if he was going to watch games this year, and he said, well, it'll be tough to watch, but if I know that I'm coming back, then I'll definitely watch it. I'll be knowing I'm coming back. He thinks he's coming back. So again, I don't know what the Bruins are going to do if they get to January, February, when he's healthy again. And he said Christmas time. So we'll say January, early February for when he could come back. If they get to that point and Swayman is kicking ass and Ullmark's kicking ass, I don't know how you just say, all right, well, Swayman, you're going to go down to Providence. You're going to go play in the AHL. I don't know how that works. I don't. And again, even if Rask is fresh, if those 2 goalies are hot, they're hot. So that's something that we can't unpack now. There's no right take right now on that situation. That was not something we will be able to accurately assess until the season gets going. We see how the goalies are playing. And again, I think if Ullmark or Swayman starts to falter at any point, I think you're going to see every beat writer writing the story of when is Rask ready to come back and when can they have that signed immediately. But signs don't point to Ullmark and Swayman struggling, but we will see. Joseph Laposte asked about the game of musical. He said that when the game of musical chairs stops, who do you expect to be the Senators from 2C to 4C? Already did answer that earlier. Ethan Lacrosse asked a good question. Who do you think will have a breakout year on both the main and the AHL roster this year? To me, I think Charlie Coyle's a good pick for a breakout candidate. on this NHL roster. I don't know if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for a younger guy, it doesn't feel. I mean, maybe Trent Frederick scores some more. Maybe. I don't know. To me, it's Charlie Coyle. He's elevated. He's he is someone who now has a much bigger role. He's with better line mates. There's not really anyone to take his job. I know he said on WEEI that he has to earn it and all that stuff. And I get it. Obviously, you're not going to come out. What was Charlie Cole going to come out and be like, oh, yeah, I'm the second line center. I'm the heir to David Krejci. No, but at the same time, I do think a guy like Coyle is set for a breakout year, coming back from injury, healthy, better line mates, kind of a better job, a little more job security. Yeah, in need of a bounce back year. So yeah, I do think he'll be the quote unquote breakout guy that you'll see. Another guy's Derek Forbort. Does he $3 million is a lot for him right now? Does he live up to that? I think if you want him to live up to it, he needs to be a really steady shutdown presence on that back end who you can consistently put up against other teams' top lines and have him shut them down. And can you get some, what can he provide you offensively? Can he hold his own next to Charlie McAvoy offensively? Can he, get some secondary assists? Can he help in the ozone a little bit? That'll be interesting to see, because again, Brandon Carlo is not very offensive, but there are times when, he can provide a little bit offensively. Can Forbort kind of do the same thing? The AHL roster, the guy's Brady Lyle. Everyone loves Brady Lyle. I was not at development camp this year, but everybody who was there said that he was tremendous and he was great. So that would be my pick. It's a popular pick, but I will pick Brady Lyle to be the AHL roster. Now he's also, they don't have a lot on the right side on defense, and that's a guy who's a right shot defenseman. And he's someone, who they expect to, I expect to break out. Others expect to break out. So wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe get the boost up to Boston at some point and maybe break out a little bit. Rebel Manaya asks, chances on Bruins trading for Dvorak or Monahan? I prefer Monahan. He said, I prefer Monahan. That is Sean Monahan and Christian Dvorak. Monahan of the Flames. Dvorak of the Coyotes, kind of an NHL team still, not really, but kind of an NHL team. Just to kind of lay the land out on this one, Sean Monahan has a cap hit of $6.375 million through 2022-23, and Christian Dvorak has a $4.45 million cap hit through 2024-25. So both are signed for a while. Both have been involved in some trade rumors. Do I think the Bruins will trade for them? I don't think so. I don't. I think Dvorak would be the more realistic one. I still don't think either help you a ton. Because again, if you go out and get Monahan at that money, granted, 2 years ago in 18-19, he had 82 points and I believe 78 games. He had a really good season along with that Flames team, who never did anything, by the way. That team's falling apart now. That team should have been a lot better than they were. But again, if you have Bergeron making his money, Monahan making 6.375, Coyle making 5.25, you're putting so much into center. And it's not like, again, Monahan had kind of a down year last year. He's middle of the road kind of center. He's pretty good. He's solid. You kind of know what you're getting out of him. Would he be a better second line center than Coyle? Yes. But do you want to have all those cap hits on your roster? Do you want to have that down the middle? Or would you rather kind of pay for, again, I think the smart move when it comes to replacing a guy like Patrice Bergeron, whether that be, I think Bergeron will probably re-up after next year. But if it's, down the road, if you go out and sign, again, next year's free agent class is stacked. And Connor and I have talked about this at length. That free agent class is stacked with centers. So maybe that's where you want to go out. You can set your own price for a center of Sean Monahan's caliber. And maybe they're better, and maybe they're kind of the new number one center, for the future. So again, this team's biggest weakness is center, but I don't know if Dvorak and Monahan kind of fix it right now. And Dvorak is a little more unproven. So again, he costs less, but I still think, again, I don't know if that's what you want. Like, I think you want to go out and pick free agency. I mean, it comes down to drafting better. We've talked about this a bunch. They need to draft better at center. Like, they absolutely have to. That's how most teams get centers. That's how they build teams and build winners and all that stuff. It's typically not through free agency, but the free agent class of next year is pretty good. There's not a lot of other options. And I also don't know what you give up for Monahan. I don't know what the price is for that. I don't know if you necessarily have it. And with Dvorak, I think you could. I think DeBrusk would be involved in that deal. But I don't know if you're upgrading that much over what you have. I think there's other ways you can upgrade. And again, I don't think they trade for them. I don't. I think they go into the season with Bergeron as 1C, Coyle 2C, and then, they already went out and signed Holla to be 3C, and they have Nosek as well to be 4C. So that's what I would guess. Marissa and Jemmy asked, Evan, do you like Star Wars? I do not, actually. I don't. I've never watched it. I've never had a huge interest in watching it. It's not really my thing. Maybe I'd like it if I did. There's so many. I feel like I don't even know where to start. But Star Wars is not something I get into. What's funny is with movies, I've watched some big movies, but there's so many big movies that people will mention. I'm like, yeah, I've never seen it. Never seen it. Like, I don't know. Maybe I have a short attention span or something, but I can never, like, there's so many movies I want to see that I just never get around to seeing. It's weird. It's weird, but Star Wars is one of those I've never seen. It's like Harry Potter as well. I've never seen them. Aside from like having the teacher read, a Harry Potter book to us in like kindergarten, I have never read a Harry Potter book. So those series sometimes I just don't really ever get into. But yeah, so that is Marissa's question. She's doing a great job out covering the Kraken now for the Seattle Times. For a friend of the show, Marissa will always be a friend of the show. Eric Ripperson asked, in light of the recent Carolina-Montreal offer sheet shenanigans, is there a player out there that could actually be tempting for the Bees to do a legit offer sheet on? First of all, if you have not been following that is absurd what's happening with the Hurricanes and the Canadiens. Crazy stuff. Basically, for those who don't know, the Hurricanes offer sheeted Jesperi Kotkaniemi. It's only like a 1-year deal, but I think it's like $6.1 million, which is a lot more than Kotkaniemi makes now. Basically, to give the middle finger to the Canadians who offer sheeted Sebastian Aho. I think it was 2 years ago now, and they were super petty about it, like 20, signing bonus like $20, and it was just a great social media move by the Hurricanes. Hilarious. Like, I thought it was very funny, but it could actually end up kind of screwing them in the long run, because I think the Canadians could potentially just be like, you can keep them and we're not paying them that money. So that's a lot of money for a fringe second liner, like for a very middle of the road forward. Very Montreal reaction though. There was a columnist up in Montreal for the Montreal Gazette, Jack Todd. Carolina's offer sheet to Kotkaniemi was a Bush League move. And then in the subtitle, the Canes behaved like a bunch of grade 5 boys trying to see who could stand farthest from the urinal and not giving a damn who gets splashed in the process. What a baby move. Like, shut up. And this guy tweets, my column on the franchise that embarrassed the game of hockey. No, this time it was not the Habs, which the Habs have done plenty of embarrassing themselves this summer. And they drafted that jabroni. But I don't know. Congrats to Jack Todd on getting some attention on what he wrote. We all want attention on what we do. But what are you talking about? Like, Bush League move, dude, have some fun. Enjoy things. Then to compare it to grade 5 boys trying to see who can stand farthest from the urinal. Jeez. Great. Good one. There's some things there I could say that I won't say. But anyways, that has been the reaction. Of course, Montreal is just pooping their pants over this whole thing. And I like how the Hurricanes are playing on it and kind of calling the guy out, which is tremendous. But yeah, I think as a social media play, this is hilarious. As a story, it's funny. I do think, though, the Hurricanes could kind of get screwed by this in the sense that they might actually have to like, Montreal could just say, keep him. And that's something that Jay Fresh on Twitter has been saying, is like, they could just not, like, Montreal just might be like, yeah, you can have him. Because there were some trade rumors around Kotkaniemi as well. And Carolina's kind of choosing to go this route. As for a player the Bruins could offer sheet, I mean, this stuff like never happens. So when I say this, I don't think they would ever do this. But like, I think Brady Tkachuk is still left unsigned. Anthony Beauvillier, those would be fun ideas, but it'll never happen. Like, that will not happen. So no, realistically, there is nobody who the Bruins will offer sheet. I know Connor had actually mentioned last offseason offer sheeting Sergachev, and that wasn't a bad idea. Like, that would have actually been a pretty good one. in the sense that you either get Tampa to overpay him a ton, or you actually just get Sergachev and you get a top pairing left shot defenseman. Because like if you could make a prototypical left shot defenseman in 2021 in a lab, you would get Mikhail Sergachev, in my opinion. Big, smooth skating, fast, offensive, good in his own zone, like just complete. And that was a guy Montreal used to have. So those are the questions. I don't think I missed anybody. If I did, let me know. Let me know if you want to, if you guys want me to do these more, or for Connor and I to kind of answer your questions on air, like just instead of, and that actually might not be a terrible idea. I don't want to push it too much because right now things are kind of dead, and I don't want to have you guys send in more questions. But if you do, let me know. Maybe we'll do this again because, as I said, things are kind of slow right now. Not a lot's happening in the Bruins world. Maybe something will. But anyways, that is today's episode of Bruins Beat. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Evan Marinofsky, since I changed my Twitter handle within the last couple months. And yeah, that is today's Bruins Beat. So you Bruins Beat listeners have a tremendous rest of your week.